Hi friends, welcome back to my kitchen. I'm Courtney with Cake by Courtney, and today we are making one of my favorite cakes. It's a sheet cake and it's my chocolate Biscoff cake, and it is so yummy. This one is in Bake by Courtney. It's also on the blog, so you'll see a link for the recipe below. But we love a sheet cake. It's still got really yummy, tender, moist cake layer in there, a Biscoff filling above that, and a chocolate buttercream. And the combination of the Biscoff and chocolate is gonna surprise you. I think you will fall in love with it. Two flavors that I love on their own. We put them together. Mwah, they are delicious. So we're gonna start out by making our chocolate Biscoff cake. We'll get that in the oven. While it's baking, we're gonna make the Biscoff filling and then also our chocolate buttercream. And I'll show you how to decorate it in a really just cute way with a simple piping technique, but you don't need to do that. You can just grab a spoon and slather on the filling and the buttercream. So let's get started with the cake. And to do that, we've got our room temperature butter. Remember, anytime we're making cake, everything needs to be room temperature that's gonna go into the cake. So the butter, the eggs, and I have buttermilk. Some of these things over here are for our filling. So we've got the butter here at room temperature. Now in here, we've got our all-purpose flour, our cocoa powder, our Biscoff cookies that I have pulverized in my food processor. And then we have our baking powder, baking soda, and salt. So I'm just gonna stir those together. Just whisk those together so all the ingredients are evenly distributed in this mixture. So when we add them to the butter and the sugar and the eggs in just a little bit, it's just all ready to go and evenly mixes. So let's just give that a little whisk, get those cookies incorporated. And remember, with cocoa powder, this is where you want to just spend a little extra money if you can to get the good quality cocoa powder. I love Extra Brut cacao berry cocoa powder. It's a dark chocolate, but don't let that scare you. Dark chocolate cocoa powder doesn't mean it's going to taste like a dark chocolate candy bar. We're adding lots of sugar and other ingredients. So it dilutes that bitterness, but the chocolate flavor is still so rich and delicious. The other thing with a good quality cocoa, like the Extra Brut, is that it's high in fat. Did you even know that there's cocoa powder that's like higher fat and some lower? So the Extra Brut, we love that because it's 22% fat, which means it's gonna create moisture and help retain moisture. So splurge a little bit on the cocoa powder. It is so, so worth it. All right, set that aside. We've got our butter. We have brown sugar in this cake, and we also have some granulated sugar. And I'm just gonna mix this with a hand mixer. Let's get this light and fluffy. Okay, so you can see this texture is coming together and it's gonna get a little bit lighter in color, fluffier in texture. And then we can start adding our eggs, just a little bit at a time. So turn that mixer down. Stir that in. Finish up. All right, once those eggs are incorporated, I will turn the mixer up just a little bit more to get that mixture, again, really smooth and light and fluffy in texture. So spend some time mixing it on a higher speed. Right now is the time to do that with your cake batter, because once we add the dry ingredients and the buttermilk, we want this to be on a low speed so we don't overmix the batter. Overmixing it once the flour's in there can cause it to be really dense because you overwork the gluten. So I'm gonna keep that on low and we're gonna alternate adding our flour mixture with 2 cups of buttermilk. So a little bit at a time. Just on the lowest setting of your mixer, whether it's your stand mixer or you're doing a handheld. Get that incorporated. We'll add our buttermilk. Get about half of that added. You can smell that chocolate. That is when you know you've got good cocoa powder. It's only a half cup of cocoa in here, and it is stealing the show already. The flavor, just the smell. gonna be so, so good. Okay, let's get the rest of the buttermilk and then add the final amount of our dry ingredients. And I'm gonna stir just until most of that flour is incorporated. And then I like to grab a spatula just to make sure I've got everything off the bottom of the bowl and to just stir it gently a couple times to make sure everything's incorporated. Now you can see a couple little clumps, that's the cookies. So don't worry if you see a little bit of that, it's not gonna be totally smooth because you have the Biscoff cookies in there. And I just like to kind of fold that together just a couple times. Make sure the buttermilk is incorporated and everything from the sides and the bottom of the bowl are added in. We're gonna pour the cake batter into a 9x13 pan. So I'm using my Fat Daddy-O. It's the same type of pan I use for my layered cakes, which is a light metal and just a good quality cake pan. It's gonna help your cakes bake really evenly because it's made to do that. And then I've sprayed it with the nonstick spray and I line it with parchment paper and spray again. I'm doing that so I can flip the cake out later and I can serve it on a tray. You don't have to add the parchment. If you're gonna serve it right from your pan, don't worry about the parchment, just do the spray. There we go. Beautiful. So we're gonna put this in the oven at 325, and I can't remember the time, so let's look at the book. All right, probably about 40 minutes. Might be a little bit longer, just depending on your oven. So give it a look as you get closer to that time. All right, it's ready to go in the oven. Let's go. While the cake is baking, I'm gonna make the Biscoff filling. Now this is really, really simple. We're just putting some butter at room temperature into a mixing bowl with our Biscoff spread, cookie spread. Whew, full cup of that. This stuff is so yummy. You could even do the like chunky style if you want. Let's mix those first and then we're just gonna add a little powdered sugar. So you're mixing the Biscoff spread and the butter until it's nice and smooth. And then we'll just add a little powdered sugar. So easy. And just really such a yummy addition to the chocolate Biscoff cake and the chocolate buttercream we're gonna make next. All right, last but not least is the chocolate Biscoff buttercream. And I think I've been telling you it's chocolate buttercream. No, there's Biscoff butter in this buttercream as well. So we're gonna start with our butter that got a little soft sitting out here with my oven on. That's all right. We've got our unsalted butter and we're gonna mix it with about a half cup of our Biscoff butter. I'm just gonna eyeball this right now. Let's see, that feels right. I'm not mad about putting a little bit more in. There we go, but in the recipe it'll say a half cup, so you know. Let's mix these two together. And then in this green bowl, I've got our chocolate ganache. So it's just some dark chocolate chips melted with some heavy cream that I'm letting cool for just a minute before we use it. We want this to get really smooth, so make sure you have no chunks of butter as you're working on this. All right, beautiful. Now we're gonna add our chocolate ganache. If you notice your butter mixture and the chocolate start to be really soft and it's thin and you're like, there's no way this can turn into buttercream, even when I add the powdered sugar, do not stress. We'll just mix it all together and then just put it in the refrigerator for just a little bit. I have a feeling mine is gonna turn out that way because my ganache is still a little warm. Let's just get it made and then we can stick that in the refrigerator. Oh, that is delish. I'm also gonna add just a little bit of vanilla and just a sprinkle of salt. Just a little pinch. A little bit more than that, there we go. Okay. Yeah, my chocolate's kind of hot, so don't let this scare you right now. It kind of looks soupy and there's no way that this could be buttercream. You're right, we are not gonna use this as buttercream just yet, but it's gonna get there. So let's add our powdered sugar. It'll thicken just a little bit. But as my cake cools, I'm gonna let this sit in the fridge for just a minute so that the butter sets in this mixture, and then I can put it in my piping bag and get a really good pipeable consistency. And once everything's incorporated, go ahead and turn your mixer up to a high speed, and we're gonna mix this for just a couple minutes to get the texture light and fluffy. I'm gonna put my buttercream in the fridge for just a couple minutes to set, and then I'm gonna remix it. So let me get that done, kind of clean up my station here, and get everything ready to assemble the cake. All right, I'm gonna put my Chocolate Biscoff buttercream in my piping bag, and I have the Wilton 1M tip at the bottom, and we're gonna use the offset icing spatula here in just a minute to spread the Biscoff filling, and then we'll pipe the buttercream right on top of that. So we're all prepped here, ready to go. Beautiful. All right, here's our cake. So once the cake is completely cooled, I actually like to let it sit for about 15-20 minutes in the pan, and then you could flip it over and put it on your plate or put it on a cooling rack for a little bit. Or you could also just leave the cake in the pan if you don't want to do that. I'm going to take our Biscoff filling, and we're going to spread this on top. So I'll just kind of divide it up on the cake here. And the cake does need to be completely cooled, otherwise your filling and your buttercream are going to melt if it's too warm. I'm going to use my offset icing spatula, and we're just going to gently start to spread that filling across the cake all the way to the edges, and then we'll just pipe right on top. All right, that's feeling pretty even. Let's just get eye level to make sure it's looking good. Yeah, I feel good about that. Okay, now we're gonna just pipe our buttercream right on top. So again, that's the Wilton 1M tip, so star tip. And what I like to start with are some rosettes just all over. This is just a really cute design to elevate the sheet cake look. You can also just spread the buttercream right on top, but to do a rosette, I'm just gonna create a little center and then just work my way around. And then you can just pull that end away. So I'm gonna do a bunch of these, and then I'll fill in some empty spots with just some little stars. All right, and just to finish off a little garnish, we're gonna throw some of our Biscoff cookies on top. So I just crumble them up into chunks. They don't have to be really small, but get them broken up just a little bit. Just kind of adds to the look of it, but also we love a little crunch and flavor. All right, let's cut in. Just get a little slice down here, just so you can see the layers. Oh, yes. Kind of a denser cake, but really still tender. Let's just get a look at digging into this one, all right? Can we get a close up here? Got the chocolate buttercream, the Biscoff filling, all in there in that bite. It's so good, you guys. Oh, the two flavors of the Biscoff and the chocolate are everything. They're just so good. You guys, can't wait for you to try this. I gotta finish this. This is too good to leave out here any longer. Grab the recipe in the link below in the captions and enjoy. See you guys later.